welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be working on this juniper. It's Itoigawa juniper. Itoigawa is a very fine variety of juniper, one of the smallest ones out there. So this is really nice fine foliage, predominantly now used in Japan for most of the species. All the old variety of junipers is not many left anymore. Everything is replaced with this foliage, so everything has been grafted with Itoigawa now, as this has a more refined image. As we'll have a little close up later, you can see it's just a lot finer. It's for bigger trees it's not such a problem. You can get away with a bit coarser foliage, but especially with finer trees showing and stuff like that, it's much more desirable to have fine foliage. As you're working with the proportions, it will look a lot better. But just up for a little prune. It's been bought last year. Been imported from Japan a couple of years ago. A very nice specimen tree. It's planted on just two trees. There's one tree here on the left, one tree here on the top. It's planted on a Japanese Ibigawa rock. That's a river rock. So this has been found in a river, and sometimes it's been altered a little bit. But yeah, there's been planted one up there and one on the other side. And you can see some of the roots there. So most of the roots are all going into the pot here. It's been done quite a while back, so quite a few years of training is already gone into this. Did a rock planting similar to this on an Ibigawa rock as well, with some smaller trees on there, but this is what it can be like in 10-15 years time. So the trees are now showing, but as I said, in 10-15 years they can be quite as big as that. So what we're going to do today is just give a little prune. It looks pretty good. It looks nice and full. So for most people, junipers and evergreens are just quite favoured because they look good all year round. Normally don't grow that fast, so I've got junipers they just put on growth like this, which is really good. But yeah, bonsai like this, it just grows a lot slower. So you normally just get about half that much. Once or twice a year, something like that, depending on the state the tree's in, what stage is that really. So we left this tree to grow for all this year, so it's done okay. We've got a few long shoots on there, as you can see, so some nice long shoots on there. Junipers are well known for this, so they get a nice little, make it like a nice little point really. So so you can see a few down there. This is one of the longest one, I think. So I want to kind of prune that back. So most people kind of do is just see the silhouette of the tree, and then just kind of snip that back like that. It looks good. It looks like you've been to the hairdresser. You just look nice and flat. But that's actually not the correct way of pruning a juniper. So the correct way is look at every individual piece basically. So for example, we've got this shoot here. So this is just, it goes all the way from there. So you got some green in there already, some green there as well. We always want to prune back to where there's green. So for example, if I'm gonna prune right there, there's no green behind that. So not like a deciduous tree, it will just start budding from wherever you cut it. But with junipers, it'll just die back all the way to there. So that's what we don't want, so just as well pruning it back where the junction is. But we want to keep that really, to just create ramification there, and density. Otherwise we'll end up with a big hole. So to prune back all the way down there, it's just not good, because even there are backbuds there, those little ones there, those are the backbuds. Even there are backbuds there, it's not going to be strong enough. It's going to be a big impact of just pruning all of that out, all of this lot. So we have to do that gradually, really. So if we do too much, the tree will just get into a fast-growing spur, basically. So what it wants to do, it's going to grow these lot, like really fast-growing foliage. So we call that juvenile foliage. So it's very open and very big, like it puffed itself up. This way you can just get a more sunlight, which in return it will grow faster. So once it just reaches a certain point of volume of foliage, then it starts to just go into the normal adult foliage, what we see here on the end, nice and close. So all of these little scales all just open when it's in stress, or being stressed and growing fast, and then when it's settled down, they're all them gonna close again. But it can take up to 2 or 3 years if you've done hard work to it. So we don't really want a setback like that in the tree. So what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna look at this strand here, this growing shoot, and then we're gonna cut back to whatever so I want to cut it back as hard as we can, but not too hard. See, so I'm gonna cut here into the wood. See, so we still leave plenty of green on here, but we reduced it quite drastically. So what I said before, most people would just kind of prune the little growth spurt off what's been growing for the last couple months, and I'm being left with that. So what happens next? It's in the next couple of months the tree will grow again, and it can be from any point here they can grow. This is all growing tips, but only a couple of them will make it into the long spiky bits. So for example, from in a piece like this, you can have another 3 or 4 growing spurs. So that grows out again to about there, and you halve that again next year. So what's going to happen in 5 years time? The tree is going to go bigger, of course. The simple maths, if you prune off less than it actually grows, you end up with a bigger tree every year. So you keep gaining and gaining and gaining. So what happens with that is the inner growth starts to die off, because everything just going to be on the outside, because they just shade it out. So junipers needs a lot of light. They're really sensitive for light. So if you got your tree too close to a fence on the back and you don't turn it around too often, this will get weaker, even though it does get sunlight. But if you compare the intensity of sunlight here and the intensity of there, there'll be a big difference, and you'll see that after a number of years, even after a season, it'll be not as green as on the other side, and it will get weaker and weaker, and the tree will go, this is a very weak foliage, I'm not going to put any strength in that to it anymore. I'm going to put all my strength in whatever gets the most sunlight. So what we want to do is just want to thin it out, but we don't want to scalp it, so we don't want to see big holes in there and stuff. We just want to what I showed you before here, we just go through every little growing tip, and we're just going to go through it. So every growing tip grows at a different rate. This one is just tiny. So every growing tip as well needs to be pruned accordingly. So if you've got a really strong one, you can prune it back harder. And if you've got a weaker one, so there's not a lot of good foliage behind it, then we just have to take a little bit less off. So that's the difficult part of teaching people how to prune things, really, because every little shoot is all different. So what about this one? Oh, this one is just a third. What about that one? No, that you can prune that by half. What about that one? We'll leave that one alone. So there's no really a golden rule of like, oh, prune everything by half. That will be very simple. But if everything will be growing the same, very balanced, that will be a lot easier. This can be achieved with pine trees, which I will just explain in a different video, because they've just got more visible growing tips on there. So instead, this is just, you got literally hundreds of it on here. They're really nice trees to have, but long term they can be a bit high on maintenance, really. So that's just a thing to consider when you want to buy one. You really need to do your research, and you need to know what you're doing, or hire somebody who knows. After a number of years, if we've just done some good pruning like this, good pruning techniques, you start to see backbuds. So the previous owner has done a pretty good job with that. As you can see in here, those are the backbuds. So the backbuds you create by proper pruning. So if you prune them, like I just said, you get a good reaction, and then you get some backbuds in there, which are the future of the tree. So these will start to grow, and then in about 2 years time they'll be nice and mature, and then you can either just cut back to them, because you go longer and longer and longer. You just, at some point, you have to cut back to the new growth there, but that's for another couple of years. So once pruned, we set the tree up for another good growing season, and then later on in the end of 2025, in the autumn, we're gonna just put some style to this tree, maybe a little bit of wiring. The tree at the moment is wired at some places. There's some wires on there. We're just gonna see which wires are necessary, if they're digging in or not. We just can remove them already prior to the growing season. So we don't want anything already pinching or digging in, so it'll create any more problems. Here you can see the inside of the branch. So you can see here it's been wired with copper wire, and you can see all the little brown bits in there. So those are the foliage which have been dead, so some died of foliage, or because of its old foliage, or it just didn't have enough light. Also, is there any foliage like this hanging down, I'm going to remove that as well. If the branches are too big, you can cut them off with the scissors. Or if they're nice and small, you can just nip them off with your fingers. So foliage what just grows down, it can sustain itself for a little while, but because it's underneath the branch, the sunlight is not as intense as on the top, so it will eventually die off. But also for the sake of having a nice clean underneath, nice definition of the path, we'll take them off and then encourage the growth on the top to get that nice little dome. If we can just try to brush it upwards. If it's some little bits just hanging down, of course you can try wire everything up, but the whole aim of bonsai is to try to make it so it doesn't need to wire, so the tree can support itself. So that's the main thing of practicing good horticulture. So you just basically you're growing it properly, you're pruning it properly, and then you just kind of train the tree to sustain itself. There always at some point in the bonsai life the bonsai journey, it needs some wire to correct the new growth. So new growth, of course, always want to just grow upwards. So at some point we need to fold it back down into the desired position. And also, when a correct pruning regime is maintained over the season, it'll be a lot easier for wiring at a later date. The work you do now is very important for the work you're going to do in the future. You're just laying the basics for making the job for wiring later on a lot easier as well. So if the pruning is on point, you only need to wire a little bit. There's some enthusiasts out there who just got a lot of time on their hands and wire everything, but it's not always necessary. Normally for a basic rule with junipers, I don't prune more of than 20% at each time. So that just normally it's a nice percentage of keeping a good amount of foliage strong, really. So it's not too scalped. So anything above that, the tree will kind of struggle. As you can see in here, there's a lot of dead little stubs in there. So the previous owner just left them alone, really. But anything a little bit bigger, over here, as you can see, is a branch going straight up, which is not really nice, and it's right very close to that junction there. So I'm gonna remove that one. There we go. So it's only, and that opens it up in there. Now we've got this area over here. So these were backbuds from probably last year. So this has been like 2 years old now. So this is really nice, but this is not strong enough to prune all the way back to there. So we could shorten it by there, but just not yet, because it's just not strong enough. But what we also have to do is, because all the backwards has been grown uncontrollably, they just all come from one point. So we have to make a little selection of what to keep, really. Anything growing downwards, we prune off. That's a dead little stub. So we've got 3 little ones from one point. So we're gonna get that one growing inside. I'm gonna take that one out. This one is quite nice. So that's nicely natural going out. So we can remove that one there. And that one. So we just reduce that by 1. This one is quite strong. As you can see here, this one has been growing stronger than this side, but we've still got lots of foliage on there if you look at it. So we're gonna reduce that by that, and that one as well. So this is quite nice now. This is a really good example of juvenile foliage within adult foliage. So this is one branch. You can see here, this is one branch. Oh. But this one is quite dominant because this is really strong. So normally the juvenile foliage is quite strong. But now we've got plenty of adult foliage around it. We can take the juvenile foliage out. See? And then you're left with nice adult stuff. You can hear it's quite messy and got multiple, so all the backwards from a couple of years ago all turned into bigger branches now, but they haven't been controlled. So that one grows straight up. Can remove that one. That one's quite strong here, and up I can go. We've got lots of other ones who can replace that. Shorten that one back quite hard. That one comes underneath. That one is quite long. I've got nothing on it apart from the bend. So that's going. So we've got a nice pad forming there now. Reduced it quite a bit, but now we got a nice, it's nice and open. Still got a few juvenile foliage in there, but we're gonna leave them on this year, and hopefully we can just take them out next year. We're a couple hours in now. I'll just focus on this bit here really. So this is nice and clean now, and yeah, you can see a little bit more of the Prune now. Now I've pruned halfway through the upper tree here. As you can see, nice and clean, nice and open. There's a few branches in here. There's one in here, filled in this gap here. I removed it because there's two already there, and in previous times there was 1, 2 there cut off as well. So it's been becoming quite a knuckle. So if you've got multiple branches coming from one point, it's just creating more sap flow in that area, and over years, over time, it creates this ugly knuckle. So that's why the principle of having 1 or 2 coming from one point at each time. So we don't want to do too much work at this time. We're already pruned a few biggish branches off. So there's a couple of them. It's quite a lot, I think. So for now that will be enough. And then maybe in the autumn we're just gonna have a rethink what we really want with this tree. If we want to have some more dead wood on there, so we can make a few into gins. Yeah, for now we just have to fill this little space in. I just don't want to put too much wire on now. We're just gonna pull some branches in the right places without too much without having too much to wire everything. put a little bit of wire on this top here, and that just goes in there, and then that one comes down a little bit, so well, now the work is completed. This is the final result. Very pleased with it. Looks very nice and neat. You can see the trunk down there now. Before it was just a bit hidden, so I just shortened those branches up a little bit more. They were kind of equal to each other, so I made a little step in them, so they just it's not all on the same level, if you know. So they're all a bit different, and then that one just comes back out again. So that's why you want really. So every pad is just in a different direction, just a bit more playful, a bit more a natural kind of feeling to it. And yeah, the same here. I think I removed a couple of branches down there, so it just opens that up a little bit more, so you can actually see the trunk of the tree, which is very important. So I think in 3 to 4, 5 years time, this could be a really good exhibition tree. And even it looks really good now. If you really want to go to exhibition, I mean, just exhibit on a really high standard, I think in yeah, 3 to 5 years, I think we can do a lot of good work here. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.